Hello students, this is Shweta Roy. This video is for chapter 5, part 1, History. Crafts, Industries and Colonialism. In this video, we are going to discuss about Indian industries on the eve of British conquest, the advent of British and decline of Indian handicrafts. In this we will also discuss about Indian textiles in the European countries. So these are some of the topics which we are going to discuss in this video. Now in the previous chapters we have studied that British came to India as traders. Their sole purpose was trade. But gradually, they established their political stronghold to become the rurals of India. They defeated the local chiefs and rulers, annexed their territories, and they established the rule of the company over the India. Now to gain control over the rich resources of India and to establish their monopoly over Indian trade, they devised new revenue and forest laws, which we have already discussed. Now because of these laws, there was unrest and poverty among the aristocratic, peasantry and tribal classes. Now in this chapter we are going to study about the effects of colonialism on Indian crafts and industries with special reference to textiles and iron and steel. Now here you will study about how the British were responsible for the incessant decline of traditional Indian crafts and industries. So our first topic is Indian industries on the eve of British conquest. Before the advent of British during 18th century, the Indian villages functioned as self-sufficient units. Apart from farmers and peasants, there were other artisans like weavers, carpenters, potters and the goldsmiths. They together made the village a self-sufficient economy. The artisans used to produce various kinds of clothes, implements, furniture, jewelry and vessels, which used to fulfill the daily needs of the village. So whatever was the need of the villagers, they used to produce themselves. So they were self-sufficient. Now there was a unique feature of the village economy, that was union of agriculture and handicrafts industry. This means that the family of the peasants undertook weaving and spinning as a part-time activity. That means with farming, they were doing weaving and spinning also as the part-time activity, and like this the requirement of clothes for the family was fulfilled. Now other artisans got their share of crops in return of the services they provide to the village. Now they were praised and patronized for their work by the local rulers and landlords. And like this, the village presented a picture of a self-governing unit which had little contact with the outside world. whatever the need was there, they were fulfilling themselves. Now, when we talk about the urban economy, it was highly developed and attracted worldwide markets. Now, if we talk about Indian cloth, particularly silk and cotton, the Indian crafts were known for their excellent quality and craftsmanship. The main centers of cotton cloth were Dhaka, Ahmedabad and Masulipatam. These were the main centers for cotton clothes. Now for silk fabrics, it flourished in Lahore, Agra and Murshidabad. So these were the areas for silk fabrics. Now Kashmir, Lahore and Agra, they were famous for their woolen shawls and carpets. And beside clothes, other Indian products that were highly in demand abroad were gold and silver, jewellery, metalwork, ivory items, shields, arms, ships, etc. So these were the items which were also in demand. Now internal and external trade paved way for the development of banking system. So in North India, Jagat Seths and Nagar Seths, and in South India, Chettis, they encouraged trade and commerce with a highly developed banking system. And things gradually changed with the emergence of the British on the Indian soil in 18th century. So this was the picture before British, and you can see the India was having a self-governing system. Now here you can see a map of India, and the map tells impact of British rule on India on Indian industries 1765 to 1857. You can see the cotton textiles are there. Universities established. That time we were having at Calcutta and Madras, also at Bombay. Then you have colleges. Then shipbuilding. Then present Indian boundary. Now, because of its flourishing economy and an excellent balance of trade, India earned the reputation of being the sink of gold and silver. So, India was known as sink of gold and silver. Now, we will discuss about the advent of British and decline of Indian handicrafts. Our system acts very much like a sponge, drawing up all the good things from the banks of the Ganges and squeezing them down on the banks of the Thames. John Sullivan, President, Board of Revenue, Madras. This was a statement given by John Sullivan. Now, this statement is very true when we see it in the context of British economic policies in India. Now, Indian handicrafts and textiles were very popular and it was in high demand in Europe and British markets. So, the East India Company bought these products as at very cheap rates and sold them back in European and British countries at much higher rates. And like this, the East India Company prospered by huge profits. They were earning huge profits by buying the things at cheap price, very cheap price, and selling it at very high price. Now, due to their high quality and excellent crafts, manship, Indian handicrafts, particularly textiles, became even more popular abroad and their demand kept on increasing. Now we will discuss about Indian textiles in European countries. So the main varieties of Indian cloth which was popular in European markets and countries of Southeast Asia, West and Central Asia were muslin, chits, calico, patola, bandana, jamdani, dungris, gingham, seersucker. So these were the items which were popular. So one by one we will go through this. So first we have muslin. So the cloth derived its name from the place Mosul. Mosul is in Iraq, and the Arab merchants sold fine quality Indian cotton cloth there. So muslin got its name from the word, the place Mosul. Second is chinch. Now printed cotton textile with multi-colors. It is produced in Masulipatam, Andhra Pradesh. The word chin is derived from the Hindi word chin, which means a cloth with colorful flowery designs. Here we have an Indian scarf and embroidered at Dhaka on white muslin. Next we have calico. It is plain white unbleached cotton fabric. Then we have patola. It is produced in Surat, Ahmedabad and Patan. Now patola had traditional floral and animal prints, mostly in blocks. Now calico derives its name from Calicut. The Portuguese first landed at Calicut, a seaport in southwest India where the fabric originated. And because of that, the cotton textiles look back to Europe came to be known as calico. Our next topic is bandana, a bright colored printed scarf for head and neck which is produced in Rajasthan and Gujarat. And it involved the method of tying and dyeing. The word bandana, it is derived from Hindi word bandhana, which means to tie. Next we have jamdani. It is a fine quality of muslin in which decorative designs are woven, and which is mainly in grey and white color, and it was produced mainly in Dhaka and Lucknow. Now mixture of gold and cotton threads was usually used in its weaving. Now we have Dungris, and it was a coarse variety of Indian calico. Then we have Gingham, which is a cotton fabric woven in strips or checks. Then we have seersucker, a very light and thin fabric with striped patterns. You can see seersucker fabric in the picture also. Here we have a question so that we can check your progress. Imagine that you have opened a new garment shop in a busy market. Now, what steps will you take to ensure maximum profits? What varieties of cloth will you keep in your store? So, you need to do this question. I hope you all understood all the topics taught in this video. Thank you.